Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the ongoing mini-series decks that I'm reviewing because I might be letting them go, and why. So, last time I talked about the Wild Unknown Tarot, a very popular tarot that is probably one that most of us own in our collection. And the truth is, it's not a matter of it being a good deck or not, just not necessarily resonating with it anymore. So as I downsize my life, I wanted to share another deck that, as pretty as it is and as attractive as it was to me online, this was the first kind of deck I bought online, and quickly found out why that's not always the best idea. Today we're talking about the Linestrider's Journey Tarot. Now, this is, again, not a bad deck. I will talk about good things about it, what I ultimately kind of just didn't feel connected on, and explain all of that in here, as well as just kind of give it an overall, what kind of rating would I give a deck like this. I'm not going to go into detail about it, just kind of briefly why it's one of those decks I don't really intend to keep, and probably out of the Wild Unknown Tarot and this tarot, this is probably the tarot I'm more likely to rehome than the Wild Unknown. Like I said, this was my first deck that I ever bought online. I saw pictures of this deck and was like, this is gorgeous, I have to have it. And though I had been told, don't buy a deck online, I said to myself, bitch, do what you want. And I've done that since and not had the same reaction that I did to this deck. So a little bit of, preferencing that as a warning. If you are buying a deck online, I don't think that's a problem. In fact, if you're buying indie decks, you will have to probably buy them online unless you're buying them from a person in person, like at a market somewhere. That's not always that straightforward. So, about this deck. Again, this is a deck that is very similar to the Wild Unknown Tarot to me in that it is a indie-ish deck. It also comes in a large box. I don't have the box with me right here, but I do have the book that came in the box. So this is about the size of the box. It's a little bigger than this, but this is the book. The book has a lot of information. This is not a small, easy to read book. I found that this was kind of overwhelming for me personally as a newbie witch. I just kind of felt like it was a little overwhelming. But that's not to say it's a bad deck or a bad book. It's just a lot to take in. Now, there's a lot of good things here. I like that there's keywords. So for death, we see change, transformation, renewal, destruction, ending, loss, new beginnings, and liberation. Those are all really great keywords. So I think out of everything that this book entails, the keywords I think are the most important because it gets to kind of the heart of things. So again, the Emperor, leadership, authority, reason, structure, discipline, masculine power, maturity, stubbornness. Now, I have said this on this channel before because of the teachers that I have had in my life. I don't like to look at the Emperor or Empress or any of those things with strictly masculine or feminine. Those are pretty limiting ideologies. Lunar or solar are much better ways of incorporating those energies in a way that's not limiting and gender conformed. But with that said, that's not really anything against this person because ultimately this came out quite a while ago, or at least not, I guess maybe not that long ago. But this is not a brand new deck. This was the third printing that came out in 2017. I believe the first edition was 2016, so it's been a few years, and that's not like a giant change, but I do think just structurally as a society, we've kind of, within certain realms of tarot, are starting to navigate outside of limiting male-female archetypes to be more inclusive with our language so that we are reflecting more about what's in the world. So this deck I was really attracted to because of the painterly designs. These are the back of the cards. I really liked certain cards because, like Two of Cups, I really like this reflection. There's certain cards in this deck that I really, really like. I like that there's a lot of animals in relationship to this deck. Now, unfortunately for me, I think one thing that I had a problem with ultimately is the box doesn't come with a smaller box. That's a very petty thing to have a problem with. But I've, at this point, just started wrapping this deck in this little silk that has my blood screen printed on it that I made myself. If you want to learn how to do that, maybe I'll teach a class on that one day because I do workshops. But this is what I've ended up doing with this deck because there is no smaller box, and I'm not going to keep my decks in the big boxes. I just don't really do that. And in fact, I'm probably going to get rid of the box for the Linestrider Journey Tarot if I don't gift it to somebody because it's too big for me. And that's just fine. That's a very personal preference. So yeah, I think ultimately these are really beautiful, very light. The illustrations are very consistent for the most part. The art that I ended up not connecting with, I love death in this deck. This is a really cool looking deck, or death for deck, this deck, are the ones with people in them. And it's because I think for me, I realized that I didn't really resonate with how the people were always depicted. Like, this is King of Cups, and I like that version of King of Cups. I like the fish. There's aspects of that that I really enjoy. The painterly look, the sketchy look. It's actually really beautiful. King of Pentacles is this owl. And that's really, I have a big thing for it. But when it came to some of the other people, I wasn't quite such a fan. And that's a very personal thing. There's aspects of it that I like, but it got a little off for me. So for Two of Pentacles, I get it. I'm not sure if I love it. There's a stylistic choice here that I just didn't really resonate with all of these. And I also found that these cards were a little hard for me to navigate. The Sun, for example, some of these cards are a little hard to read if you're a baby reader. Now, again, this was my first deck that I bought online. And so I think I saw the art and loved the art that I did see, and I wanted to really love it. I actually really love the Chariot in this one. But there's aspects of the art that I just was not connecting with, and it's mostly the people. So Seven of Pentacles, this is really interesting. There's also just aspects of it. Seven of Cups, wow, that's really good. Where if I didn't read the book, if I didn't pull out the book, I just wouldn't know what was going on with these cards. And so it's kind of, at this point I can look at Four of Swords and go, yes, I understand what Four of Swords is because I have a relationship with that card. I've pulled it quite a bit. And so when I see this card, I can read it fairly easily. But as a new reader, I found that this deck was actually really hard to navigate. I found that I really had a hard time understanding what is going on because there wasn't a lot of information present. Now, that's not the case for every single card, but there's definitely some spaces where I didn't. This is actually kind of low-key hilarious, like party animals. There are certain aspects of this deck that I think are strong. The style of the deck is very consistent, except for when it comes to people. That's hit or miss for me. Temperance is really interesting. There is a lot of connection to really classic art in this deck, but it's kind of a meh for me. So that's one thing that I would say take away from this is feeling like, there's some good and some just kind of meh for me. And ultimately, that's why I don't really use this deck very much. I know I definitely used to pull it out more when looking at cards and reflecting on the different types of cards for different energies. But again, it just hasn't really served me too much, and that's a big personal thing. So with that said, let me know if you have this deck. I actually love the Nine of Cups for this deck. This helped me change how I feel about Nine of Cups. Like, this is by far the most Nine of Cups shit I've ever seen. Cat that ate the canary. Very Nine of Cups. But like I said, if you have this deck and you love it, let me know. If you got it and you're kind of meh about it, let me know as well. I'm curious to see how other people have either connected with this deck or not connected with this deck, or what that looks like for you. There's definitely, it's a little all over the place for me. The Fool is actually, I really love this interpretation of the Fool. You can kind of place yourself in it because it's faceless and open. It allows you to embrace that. I also don't really like that the people who are in there, sometimes it's a lot of idealized bodies, and I wish there was more variety there. I know I've talked on this channel before as far as like inclusivity in decks is kind of something that I think is really important, and it can't be like, it's hard to describe why that's important to me, other than I think it's important. I think it's valuable to include different types of people, and there's a lot of idealized bodies here, and maybe that's why some of my connection to it has just been not as strong, but there are really great, beautiful illustrations in this deck. It's definitely a deck, if you connect with this, I say recommend getting it, but not as your first deck, because again, this is going to be a little challenging to read as a baby reader. Ten of Pentacles is pretty on point. But also, I love the book. The book is actually pretty good. It gets a little wordy for certain things. It also breaks down associated birthdays for certain cards, the numbers, corresponding numbers, and associated plants for cards. So for Three of Cups, that's Clover, associated birthdays, June 3rd and June 8th. So that stuff can be really interesting. I do think it gets a little heady, a little intense with the reflections, but if you're new, if you want to study tarot, I definitely think this is not a bad book to dive into, because the relationships, everything that's laid out in here is really good. And I like this explanation, stride on the edge of magic and logic where colorful whimsy meets profound wisdom. There's definitely a lot of thoughtfulness that went into this deck, so I definitely don't want to negate against that. It's just not the deck for me, and I think that's because I really had high expectations. There were certain things that I just didn't find that I related to. But yeah, let me know what you think, if you connect with these cards, if this is a deck that actually just fucking changed the whole thing for you. The whole game is different now that you got this deck. Like I said, there's definitely certain cards, Queen of Cups, I felt really helped me understand this card a little bit more. Because of that card, I was getting a lot at the time. Don't mind me. And then, yeah. Ace of Cups, that's a really good one. The animals are beautiful. The art is beautiful. I just don't resonate with all of it. But yeah, if you like my reviews, make sure to hit like, comment, subscribe, and bell for notification, because I love talking about tarot. I love talking about tarot theory. I love talking about how we can expand tarot to be more supportive in our lives. And yeah, if you like how I talk about tarot and want me to read for you, link will be down below to my website. But as always, friends, this was just a quick review of the Linestrider Journey Tarot. If you want to see other videos, those should be popping up now, if not a little before now. But yeah, have a beautiful day, friends. I'm hoping to do a collective reading soon on the energies coming up, maybe with our Oh, we're in April. My calendar is wrong. Maybe with the upcoming moons, and of course, getting back to my regularly scheduled videos that have to do with the magic of the stars. But with that said, let's see what card will close us out for today. Nine of Pentacles. Hope that is supportive for you today, friends. Nine of Pentacles is the jam. My name is Lynn, and have a beautiful weekend. Bye-bye.